strictly for the purposes of financial gain for those who have access to her estate, including Clive Davis.
Including Clive Davis.
Let's talk about the filth that's starting to come out in the early days of the Diddy trial. This, of course, is P. Diddy. Surprise, surprise, he's a creep. Surprise, surprise, he's done horrible things.
The music industry has always been a glittering facade, a world where fame, wealth, and power shine bright under the spotlight. But behind the polished veneer lies a labyrinth of secrets, betrayals, and unspoken truths. Few stories expose the industry's dark underbelly as vividly as the one we're about to tell. It's a tale of rebellion, corruption, and an audacious fight against exploitation. And at its heart is TLC, the girl group that dared to defy the odds. This is not just another chapter in music history. It's a revelation that shakes the very foundation of an empire built on manipulation and control.
I'm sorry, I'm just I'm in this moment right now. This is crazy. Sorry. People don't really know how much what it does to you when something that you love is taken from you and thrown away like it don't even matter, and then they move on with their lives and you're stuck. You're stuck during those years. You're still stuck 21.
Let's start with the backdrop. Sean Diddy Combs is a name synonymous with power and decadence. A man who turned Bad Boy Records into a billion-dollar empire for decades, Diddy reigned supreme, untouchable, his influence stretching across music, fashion, and culture. But as the world now knows, his empire wasn't as unshakable as it seemed. The recent Homeland Security raids on his multi-million-dollar homes in Los Angeles and Miami have painted a chilling picture of a man whose legacy is now entangled in allegations of coercion, human trafficking, and systemic abuse. Helicopters circled overhead, federal agents swarmed the properties, and police dogs combed the premises as the world watched the take-on of a mogul who once seemed invincible.
Centerpiece of a lot of what happened during direct testimony were freak-offs. And what the prosecution tried to show was that he forced and or coerced her into doing these freak-offs. And we've talked about this earlier this week, that at least my opinion is that in a lot of these, the prosecution just didn't close the loop. It was something she felt.
The investigation is no ordinary scandal. It's a federal take-on of one of the most powerful figures in entertainment. Homeland Security agents, reportedly acting on information from insiders, executed coordinated raids as part of a human trafficking probe. The timing was no coincidence. It came just months after Diddy quietly settled the lawsuit with his former partner, Cassie Ventura, who accused him of years of physical abuse, substance use, and forced participation in freak-offs, substance-fueled, intimate gatherings that, according to court documents, left her traumatized and shattered. Cassie's settlement, reportedly worth $20 million, was only the beginning. Her courage to come forward opened the floodgates for other victims emboldened by her story to break their silence. Multiple lawsuits followed, each more damning than the last, with allegations spanning decades and implicating Diddy's closest associates. But Diddy's downfall is only the tip of the iceberg, the shadow of Clive Davis. The legendary executive behind Arista Records looms large over this story. Davis, a man whose influence over artists like Whitney Houston, Alicia Keys, and Kelly Clarkson is unparalleled, was more than just a mentor to Diddy. Emerging rumors and whispers from insiders suggest a far murkier relationship, one built on exploitation and secrecy. Suge Knight, the infamous Death Row Records founder, recently alleged on his prison podcast that Davis and Diddy shared not just a professional bond, but a deeply personal one. Knight's claims, while unverified, have ignited speculation about the power dynamics in their partnership. Could Clive Davis have been the puppet master, pulling strings behind the scenes, shielding Diddy from accountability, while reaping the benefits of his success? He needed her back. He needed her back, but he needed her back and under his control. The stakes are impossibly high, and the deeper you dig, the darker it gets. While Diddy's name dominates headlines, the industry's silence is deafening. How many insiders knew about the abuse? How many executives turned a blind eye to protect their own careers and fortunes? The lawsuits and testimonies paint a damning picture of an entertainment empire built on coercion and control. Cassie's harrowing account of freak-offs, where she was allegedly forced to participate in intimate acts while Diddy watched and directed, isn't just a shocking revelation, it's a glimpse into a systemic pattern of exploitation. These weren't isolated incidents, they were recurring events orchestrated with chilling precision. Alleged victims describe a culture where power was wielded like a weapon, and compliance was enforced through fear and intimidation. And then there's TLC, the group that stands as a symbol of defiance in an industry that thrives on silence in the mid-1990s. TLC was riding high on the success of their album, which generated an astonishing $75 million in revenue. But while their music dominated charts worldwide, the group was living a far grimmer reality. Each member, Tion Tiba Lopez, Lisa Le Lope, and Roseanne Chili Thomas, received just $50. 00 checks. They were multi-platinum superstars, yet they drove beat-up cars and lived in sparsely furnished apartments. The betrayal was devastating, and it set the stage for one of the most dramatic confrontations in music history.
He needed her back.
Oh, yeah.
He needed her back, but he needed her back and under his control.
What happened next was unprecedented. TLC, led by the fiery and fearless Left Eye, decided to take matters into their own hands. They didn't consult managers or lawyers. They didn't file lawsuits. Instead, they stormed the offices of Arista Records, demanding answers. Clive Davis was in a meeting with Diddy when TLC arrived, flanked by a crew of intimidating ex-con women. Left Eye had met during her time in a diversion center. The group spread through the building, seizing awards, promotional materials, and anything bearing their names. One member of their crew stood guard outside Davis's office, blocking anyone from entering or leaving inside. TLC confronted Davis, directly laying bare their grievances and demanding justice.
Well, the things that I experienced with him were monster-like. That stuff almost destroyed my life.
For Diddy, the incident was humiliating. He was forced to abandon his meeting, watching as TLC took control of the narrative for Clive Davis. It was a wake-up call. He had two choices: press charges and risk a public relations disaster, or negotiate quietly and hope the storm would pass. He chose the latter, and while TLC didn't walk away with all the money they were owed, they succeeded in shaking the industry to its core. Their audacity sent a clear message. They were not just artists. They were fighters, and they would not be silenced. The aftermath of TLC's rebellion rippled through the industry. At Arista, security measures were tightened. Even artists had to undergo pats and sign-ins to access the building. The label was on edge, its executives wary of another uprising. Clive Davis never looked at TLC the same way again, and Diddy, who had witnessed the chaos firsthand, was left rattled years later. Chili's reaction to a joke about Diddy going to jail would reignite speculation about the true depth of her knowledge. What did she know about Diddy's world? What secrets had she uncovered during her relationship with Usher, who as a teenager had been sent to live with Diddy in New York? The answers remain elusive, but the implications are chilling.
Referred to me as Wild King Nights. And what a Wild King Night was when him and a guest would go to a hotel room or be at his home, his bedroom, and they would have intimate gatherings. I would have to go and prep that hotel room, which consisted of baby oil, Astroglide.
This story isn't just about TLC or Diddy. It's about an industry that has thrived on exploitation, where power dynamics are skewed and accountability is rare. It's about the courage of those who dare to speak out even when the odds are stacked against them. And as the revelations continue to unfold, one thing is clear: the music industry's darkest secrets are finally coming to light. This is just the beginning. Stay tuned so the story doesn't stop here. If anything, it only gets darker, more twisted, and more shocking as we dig deeper. The revelations about the industry's most powerful figures become impossible to ignore. Sean Diddy Combs may have been the face of the recent scandals, but the cracks in his empire are exposing something much bigger: a system built on control, secrecy, and exploitation. It's a web that stretches far beyond one man, and as the lawsuits pile up, so do the disturbing details of what really went on behind closed doors.
It was like, wow, for Diddy? What? You know, that was a person that I looked up to, was a mogul. So, and I listened to all the artists that he made superstars. And so to have a chance to be able to be signed to him, it was amazing. It was like, oh my God, I'm here. I finally did it.
Let's talk about the so-called freak-offs, a term that has become synonymous with the allegations against Diddy. According to court testimonies and insider accounts, these were no ordinary gatherings. They were carefully orchestrated events designed to assert dominance. And control. Victims have described being coerced into intimate encounters that lasted hours, sometimes days, often under the influence of substances they didn't willingly take. One alleged victim recounted how she would need IV fluids to recover. After these events, her body pushed to the brink. Another chilling detail: The presence of cameras, Diddy, according to multiple sources, would record these encounters, later referring to the footage as blackmail material. The implication is clear. No one walked away from these events without a leash around their neck.